12 years after the death of her best friend, and also future alpha of Eclipse Pack, Tiana Aldridge finds herself mated to his twin brother, Jordan Walker, but he doesn't want her. Her pack hates her, and everyone blames her for the death that happened 12 years ago. She grows up an outcast, and Jordan wastes no time rejecting her. All her hopes of ever finding happiness come crashing. Tiana only has one wish, an opportunity to leave Eclipse Pack for good. The former Alpha King passes on, and her Alpha gladly gives her out as a tribute to the King. What he doesn't know is karma is coming back in the deadliest way he least expects. Please join us in reading through this story. If you are watching, please hit the like button and leave a comment to let us know where you are tuning in from. I am working hard to create content, and your likes, comments, and subscriptions give me the energy to keep going. Let's get started. I swallowed my saliva and take one step backward, but he takes a longer step towards me, bringing him even closer to me. I haven't seen Jordan in a long time, and I always try to avoid him, because he said once that I reminded him of the incident, and he would rather not set his eyes on me. Jordan is 2 years senior to me. Oh goodness, that means he has known about me being his mate for the last 2 years, and he said nothing about it. He was scrutinizing me, staring down at me with loath, and his nose scrunched up. "Why did you bring me here?" I ask him, trying to keep the fear out of my voice. He doesn't respond immediately, apparently enjoying my discomfort. I'm here thinking of the many ways he can end my life right now, and no one would know about it. He didn't just bring me to his brother's death scene this time in the night just to hang out here. He starts to walk around me in circles, sniffing me as he did. "I'm sure you remember this spot all too well. This is where you stood and laughed while my beloved brother took his last breath," he says with clenched jaw, and I feel tears burn my eyes at his accusation. That had been the worst night of my life. How could he even think? I laughed through it. I didn't twite. I didn't get a chance to speak. He wouldn't let me. "You need to stop denying Tiana," he exclaims. He was still going around me. "How is it that you were here with him, but you didn't get even a scratch? That's because you had it all planned out, you little she-devil," he accused. 12 years ago, an unforgettable tragedy shattered the Eclipse Pack, and ever since, the blame has been unjustly placed on my shoulders. I was so young back then, a mere child who lost her closest friend, yet they treated me like an accomplice to darkness. Jordan's eyes flashed red, his terrifying alpha aura expanding instantly, crushing the air out of my lungs. He stepped forward, using his sheer dominance to pin me against the cold truth of his hatred, making me fall back onto the ground. "I've waited for this day for 2 years, Tiana," he hissed with deep venom. I scrambled backward, feeling the absolute weight of his rejection breaking the sacred bond within me. He looked down at me one last time with cold disdain, before turning his back and leaving me alone in the dark ruins of our past. He lets out a slow groan and snaps his head to meet mine. "It's so hard, T, my wolf wants you, but you are a traitor." I see him swallow hard, but his grip on my hair is so painful. I have already developed a headache and my eyes are turning. "I, Jordan Thompson Walker, future alpha of Eclipse Pack, reject you, Tiana Aldridge, as my mate." He lets out the most hurtful words. I felt a heart-wrenching pain in my chest, as well as a whimper within me that had to be from my wolf. I'd only just felt her presence, and now it seems like she was leaving me so soon. My first thought was to beg, because it feels like a part of me was slowly dying, but I couldn't beg. Begging him would mean living the rest of my life in torture. He hates me. He thinks I had something to do with his brother's death. If this rejection was going to vanish me, then so be it. I would rather die than leave the rest of my life at his mercy. I would rather die than remain in this pack and die a wretched maid. Maybe now the alpha would give me permission to leave. A rejection from a mate is a good enough reason, isn't it? But I doubt my alpha would let me go still. Just like his son, he would want me to suffer. Leaving would be too easy. He releases my hair from his hard grip and I stepped away from him. I can see the smug smile planted on his face. I bet he had planned this for a long time. To werewolves, the mate bond is very sacred. Our mates are given to us by the moon goddess, and they are to complete us. A rejection is very rare, and if it happens, it can weaken our wolves or even lead to the death of the rejected, especially if her partner moves on to mark someone else. Accept the rejection, you moron, he snarled at me. I can feel myself going weaker and weaker. At the same time, I want to be with my mate. I didn't have much expectations before perceiving his scent this evening, and then I had hopes all of a sudden. That's the thing with the mate bond, it's so hard to break, but I wasn't going to keep being the pitiful mate anymore. I would rather die than beg. Yes, I'd rather die. I looked him straight in the eye then, standing to my full height with as much confidence as I could muster. I, Tiana Aldridge, accept your rejection, Jordan Thompson Walker. As of this day, I cut all ties binding me to you as your mate. I say with equal venom in my voice, but deep down, I was hurting. My wolf's whimper had become even fainter and I could barely feel her presence anymore. The smug smile on his face was immediately wiped off, and I saw his Adam's apple move as he swallows. His eyes had turned darker, and I could have sworn I saw pain in them, but he was masking it so well, glaring at me like he didn't feel a thing. I feel like I may be sick any time. I haven't been sick since I remember, but right now, I could feel my palms growing cold and my eyes heavy, but I kept a straight face. He's not going to see how much of a wreck I am from his rejection. I glance around the environment again. This is where Jace died. This is where I got rejected, the two most painful events in my life. I don't want to remain on this Packlands anymore. 12 years and 4 months are enough. You are going to regret this, Jordan spits and reaches for my neck again. But this time, I held on to his hand before it reached its target area and aura pressure with him. He stared at me in shock, surprised that I would challenge him, but I pushed with all the strength in me. He lets out a loud growl, emanating his alpha aura, and I didn't know when I fell to my knees, breathing heavily. Pathetic, he drawls before spinning around and leaving me there. I laid there for at least another 1 hour, crying and cursing. Memories of how the last 12 years had panned out playing in my mind. I didn't think one could survive the amount of pain I feel right now, but I allow myself take in all of it and nurse the internal bruises I felt. The physical ones were already healing fast. I smoothened my rumpled shirt on my body. I didn't even realize it was rumpled until I got here. Well, I don't realize anything anymore. It's like I'm a walking corpse. I don't feel anything. I don't see anybody relevant. And when I stepped out this morning to the usual snide comments and insults, I didn't feel the usual uneasiness that I would normally feel, just coldness. I'm standing close to the Alpha's office, his guard questioning me like I wasn't a part of the pack and had no right to see the Alpha. But I soon realized I came at the wrong time. The Alpha had 2 guests in his office, but I was so determined to see him that I have been waiting for the past 3 hours for this meeting to end, and this ugly moron that prides himself as being the Alpha's dog takes the opportunity to interrogate and taunt me. "He's not going to be pleased to see your face," he snarled, and I glared back at him. I have been reduced to this level. Even the guards have no regard for me. No one remembers. I'm a freaking Gamma's daughter, but I don't even care anymore. I just want to be out of this hell hole, otherwise known as Eclipse Pack. "You are wasting your time, bloody outcast," he adds when I do not respond, but I award him with more silence. It's pretty obvious that whatever the Alpha was discussing with the strangers was quite important. And from the air surrounding the whole place, they must be influential people, most likely from the council. I thought of checking back much later, but when the events of last 24 hours flood through my mind, I'm left in a fist of rage. I cried hours non-stop before dragging myself back to my room where I cried some more. Aside from Layla making me a cake, yesterday was the worst birthday I ever had. Right now, however, I just feel numb, and the fact that Jordan may just happen to walk by any moment had me on edge. I don't want to see him, but my eagerness to leave this pack surpasses any other thing. I didn't show up to attend to any of my usual duties today, and word had gotten to me that Miss Anna was going to punish me. I'm not going to hang around long enough for her to do that, though. If the Alpha refuses to allow me leave, then I may just have to run away and deal with whatever consequence that comes with it. The thought of being a rogue made me shudder. After what seems like forever, the Alpha comes out of his office along with the two others he was having a conversation with. He shook their hands and his guard escorted them out. He didn't give any indication that he had seen me sitting there, but I'm pretty sure he did. I waited a few more minutes after he had entered his office before going to knock. He doesn't respond at first, and after another knock, he grunts before allowing me in. He didn't look up from his paperwork as I enter. "State what you want and disappear," he says coldly, his gaze still on his desk. I clear my throat, not sure where to start at first, but I knew I had to start somewhere. "Good day, Alpha. Spare me the formalities. I don't have time for all of that. State what you want and disappear," he says firmly this time, allowing his alpha aura fill the room, and I submit to his tone. He didn't even have the decency to tell me to have a sit. Hell, he couldn't even bring up his face to meet mine. I bet I disgust him so much. At one point, I used to be close to this man. When my dad would go out for his duties and leave me with his wife, he would tell me stories when he had the chance to, which was very rare, but he did sometimes. I'm pretty sure he knows his son rejected me and gave me a good breaking last night. Of course he would know. Jordan has known that we were mates for the last 2 years, and knowing how close he is to his father, he must have mentioned it to him. Perhaps he advised his son to reject me even. I don't blame him. "I want to leave," I say flatly. He froze for a second, then slowly bring up his head to meet mine. I was the one that looked to the floor this time. I can't bear to look my alpha in the eyes. That would be plain disrespect. "What did you say?" He scowled. I swallowed before repeating again. "I want to leave Eclipse Pack." He remains quiet for a while, then closes the work he had been looking through before rising from his desk. I almost bolted the door. The thing is, Alpha Simon is very intimidating. He has a large frame that towers above everyone in his pack. He's an alpha, after all, and when he speaks, everyone listens. He has a scary frame, and when he is mad like he is right now, everyone close by feels the heat. "You have some nerve, girl," he says, leaning on his table just a few meters away from where I'm standing. "What makes you think you can leave any time you like?" "What are your reasons?" he asks. Leaving a pack is not something any alpha wants to hear, especially not an alpha as controlling and proud as him. But I'm pretty certain Alpha Simon knows why I want to go. No one wants me here. And my mate. He raised his hands to silence me, then looked me over. I still couldn't look him in the eye, but at least I had raised my gaze from the floor to stare at the wall behind him. I knew he was not going to let me off easy. "You led my son to his death," he accused. "Oh, not again. We still let you live. I mean, you have a roof over your head. You have food. You still have the right to go to school, but you stand there sounding like we don't make you feel at home here. You ungrateful peasant. Help me, moon goddess." I promised I would not let his words get to me, but it's easier said than done. His words were tearing into my flesh. I already feel like hell. I don't need him adding to it. It's why I have stayed away from him and his family over the years. I helped other higher-ranked werewolves with their domestic chores, but I made sure to stay clear of the Alpha and his family. They didn't want to see me either. I can feel all his anger around me, and it made me want to cower. I dropped my head back to the floor again. I had to guide my thoughts so he doesn't see into them. He's an Alpha, and he's pretty good at it. "I'm sorry, Alpha." My voice began to quiver. I'm not even sure what I'm apologizing for. His aura just makes me want to submit to him. "Oh, yes, you would be sorry pretty soon," he says, and goes back to his seat and starts scribbling something on a piece of paper. He picks up the landline close to him and dials. "Hello," he says hoarsely, then waits for the person on the other end to speak. "We would be sending 2 tributes from Eclipse Pack," he says, and I almost go into a panic. He doesn't say anything for a while, as the person on the other end appears to be narrating something to him. Then he nods his head. "Tomorrow morning. It is then. I'm sure the council would want that," he says before ending the call. When he was done with the call, he looks me over again. "Since you are not satisfied with the level of tolerance we show you here, you would appreciate the life you lived there," he stated flatly. It felt like a blow was thrown in my face, and I stood there dazed for a second. A tribute. That means he was going to sell me out, or what? This is terrible, but I couldn't find my voice. I can't even complain. "Get out," he ordered, still scribbling furiously on his paper with the veins on his forehead looking more prominent. I didn't wait another second. I bolted from his office. Layla broke down into uncontrollable tears as she watched me pack my things. I feel overwhelmed, really. All the times I envisioned leaving Eclipse, I didn't ever consider leaving in this manner, not to be given out like some piece of overused dress. I didn't have much to pack, and even if I did, I don't want to take much from this place. I do not want to be reminded of this place, so I just threw a few clothes inside my backpack. I haven't told Layla I found my mate and got rejected on my birthday because that would make her feel worse. I was trying to be strong myself. I know I believed anywhere was better than here, but I'm beginning to doubt that now. The news is that the Western Wolves, which is an aggregate of 24 packs, of which Eclipse Pack happened to be one of them, have never been in the good books of the Royals. I don't know exactly what the story is, but the hatred has been passed from generation to generation. Even to date, the Western Wolves would do anything to gain favors and recognition from the royals, and a tribute is given to the king whenever the occasion calls for it. About a week ago, the former king passed on and was laid to rest almost immediately. However, a ceremony was to be conducted after 7 days, which is today, and all packs under the Western Wolves are giving out some of their pack members. Well, more like servants from their pack to the royals as a form of tribute to the late king. It is plain tradition, and there's no escaping it. Alpha Simon has wanted to get rid of me for the longest of times, and I just happened to fall into his trap showing up at his office the time I did. It's not like he wouldn't have willingly handed me over even if I didn't ask to leave at that time. Now, I was going to be given off to the royals, myself and Rose, another Omega in my pack. I would be a servant for the rest of my life, It seems like I signed my own death papers by myself. If I wasn't there as at that time, if I didn't approach the Alpha about wanting to leave, maybe I would not have resigned myself to that fate. Right now, I'm not even sure which is worse. They say the devil you know is better than the angel you do not. I'm not sure what to expect, but it's too late now. I don't have any choice whatsoever. I'm going to miss Layla so much, and no amount of words would calm her down. I've tried hugging her and telling her that she would be fine and nothing would happen to me. But she's uncontrollable. I hate that I have to leave her behind. She has been the only one close to a family that I ever knew. She doesn't have many friends because of me, and she's the only one that ever looked at me and saw a person. Hurry up! What's taking so long? One of the warriors banged on my door. I've been in here far too long, and the escort taking me away was already waiting. I turned to give Layla one last hug. Promise you would call me soon as you get there, she asks. And I stare around the room before picking up the old phone on my little table. I had almost forgotten about it. I'm not even sure if I would be allowed to carry one in the palace, or wherever it is I'm being shipped to. I'll be fine and I'll keep in touch as much as I can, I assure her before walking out the door, Layla following behind. I shivered as I saw the small crowd waiting outside for me. There were about 2 black vehicles with tinted glasses and a truck behind. 2 men were positioned on each side of the vehicle. Close to the pack house was Jordan. He was leaning against the walls, looking all pale and surprised, like he didn't know I was going to be shipped off. I know he's fucking jubilating in his mind, even though he doesn't look like it. I suppress the urge to scowl at him, and my eyes drift to his father, who had a triumphant look in his eyes. He was besides his Luna, who was in deep conversation with a very bulky man. I've never seen these men before. It seems like this is all they do. The way they carried themselves was enough to tell me they had been sent here for us. A small crowd also gathered to watch the show. Many had pity in their eyes, but most of them looked on with scorn and amusement. I didn't miss the smirk on Beta Leo's face as he watched me with narrowed eyes. He still had the nerve to wink at me. The insolence in the name of a man. He had been close to my dad as well, but look at him now, staring lustfully at me. I would love to punch him in the face before leaving, but that's not possible, not if I still want my head on my neck. Bella was among the small crowd watching too, and when my eyes met hers, she stuck out her tongue at me and made a funny face. I raised my middle finger at her and she gasps. The look on her face was enough to make me smile. I mostly wouldn't respond to her silliness. But what have I to lose right now? What could be worse than this? At least I take solace in the fact that I would not be setting my eyes on her again. She's a real pain in the ass. I feel someone nudge me from the back and I stagger forward. I turn to see another scary-looking man scowling at me. He held open the back of the truck for me and pushed me in, then closed the door with a loud bang. There was very little light in there, but I could see Rose already seated. I peered out the little window to look outside and I caught Layla still crying. She couldn't see me from that little hole, but I could see her so clearly. I haven't shed any tears so far, but seeing her like that made water gather at the back of my eyes. I'm glad to leave, Rose breaks the silence. I turn to face her. I don't know Rose so much, but she was not one of those that had been a thorn in my flesh while I stayed here. She didn't associate much, and she was just as much of an outcast as I was. I studied her, but she remains impassive and just shrugged. I hated it here anyway. I hate Alpha Simon especially, and I don't think anywhere could be worse than this place, she says. While Rose may have been an Omega all her life, I'd experienced a life of worth before things went haywire. I hope you know what this means. I tell her. She shrugged. I don't mind. I've been a tribute all my life here anyway. It's even an upgrade for me because now I would be under royals. Not many people get the privilege of setting their eyes on royal blood, so I'm good with that, she says. Well, this just goes to show how different the two of us are. I want to be something more than a serving girl, not just because I was once a Gamma's daughter, but because I believe life has more to offer. But Rose has resolved to settle for less. It would have been easier to run from Eclipse Pack, but it's not that easy in the royal palace. She did have a point about having to meet royals. Indeed, not many people get to meet with one, and it's considered great honor to be in the midst of one. But one thing I do know is that one way or the other, I would have to find a way to escape. The main thing is that I leave here first. We hear the driver's door open and slam shut. I peered out again, and I see Layla waving at the truck. I wave back at her even though she cannot see me. I hear the engine start and soon we are on our way. Somehow, I feel relief wash through me, as well as dread. Relief to be finally out of Eclipse Pack, and dread for what the future holds. I closed my eyes and said a silent prayer to the moon goddess to keep me safe and to protect Layla too. It was pretty dark when we got to our destination. My back ached from sitting upright and my butt hurts too. I'm really hungry now. We didn't get to eat all through the day and we did not stop throughout the journey, except for when we needed to fill the gas. And right now I feel like my bladder would burst open anytime soon. Alpha Simeon did me dirty, no doubt. I bet they are happy right now. They finally have the leech out of their skin. I wonder what Jordan is up to at this time. I was no longer close to him since the incident, so I cannot predict. It's a relief I don't have to see him henceforth. Maybe that would help mend my pain. I shook my head. I don't want to think of him or Eclipse Pack. The door to the truck was flung open and it was time to come out. I sighed loud, then tapped Rose, who had slept for most of the journey, and we got out. We had to come down at the gates for searching. My first sight of the royal palace left me staring in amazement. I forgot all about the need to relieve myself for the first 5 minutes as I stared at my surroundings. The gate was massive and quite beautiful, with several uniformed men positioned at various points. I guess this is as far as the truck could go because they turned back almost immediately, leaving myself and Rose in the hands of 2 hefty men. These men were to deliver us to the royals, like some goods. We were taken to a small room just beside one of the security posts where our bags were turned over inside out till every single item was on the floor. One of the men used a handheld metal detector to check for metals or any objects we may be carrying. The only thing metallic on me was my little phone where Layla had been texting me all day. After that, we were put into a more decent car than the truck we had come in, and I checked out my new surrounding from the window, occasionally murmuring "wow" without even knowing it. I have never seen anywhere more beautiful in all my life, elegance at its peak. After driving for about 8 minutes, I can finally see the huge castle. I had only been able to see its roofings from afar, and now seeing it up close, magnificent would be too much of an understatement to describe it. The atmosphere smelt of luxury and affluence, and from all the exotic cars packed here and there, I could tell the ceremony for the departed king is already underway. I have heard and read tales about the royal palace of the werewolf king, but looking at it right now, I could stare at the walls all day and still not be able to find the words to describe it. I start to imagine how living here would be like, and a small smile curved my lips. It's definitely going to be better than Eclipse. I stared at the flowers, and the scent of different powerful wolves filled my nostrils. Two other smaller buildings surrounded the main castle with several little statues scattered here and there. A wild wolf, a uniformed man, and many others. Just a few meters from the main castle stood a tall, giant statue of a king on his throne. It's the largest statue I have ever seen in my life. The statue of the first werewolf king. I've read about it before, and my mouth gaped open as the vehicle whizzed by the gigantic building, till we are at the back of it. Then stop abruptly. Someone opens the door for us and we are led in through the iron doors at the back. Two women approach us with smiles on their faces. Well, I didn't exactly expect any form of friendliness around here. They looked beautiful, and if my guess is correct, they are probably in their late 40s or early 50s. The other two men who brought us in here didn't say a word. Instead, they nod at the ladies who respond with another warm smile. And then, they start to lead us down a long hallway. They both stop in front of one of the doors and usher us in. The room is decorated in pink and white. Pink is not one of my favorite colors, but the room looks beautiful. There are two separate beds on opposite sides of the walls, with a floor-length window in between. The curtains are white with black patches, and there's a small television on the opposite wall with a large wardrobe too. It's right. The room is definitely beautiful. Welcome to the Royal Palace. One of the women begins. This is going to be your room for the time being, and your performance would determine what becomes of you. But as for now, we would treat you as guests. She paused to take in our expressions, but I keep an expressionless face. A party is currently been held in honor of the late king, as you already know, so you would be allowed the night to rest here. Your meals would be brought to you, as well as a change of clothes, and tomorrow a royal would receive you, she says, a smile still on her lips. If this is a dream, please, I do not wish to wake up. I had imagined being tortured, forced to eat from the trash, or even tribute in chains. I didn't expect to be in a room so comfortable. One look at Rose and I knew she was thinking the same thing. Feel comfortable for now, the other lady added, and they left us in the room. First thing I did was run to the toilet to relieve myself as soon as they left, and Rose followed. As soon as I was done, I picked a bed first and laid on it. Oh my, it feels so soft, and I can't help the smile that tugged at my lips. I could get used to this. I went about checking out the room. I can see Rose too is excited. The sheets smelled great. The room is not so big, but it is cozy, and I love it already. I love it. Rose squeals, and I laugh with her. Me too, I say, but I can't shake off the feeling that there's something the women are not telling us, she said. Our performance would determine what becomes of us. Did that mean we would be given daily tasks or what? Whatever it is, I can't wait to find out. A loud knock sounds on the door, and before we could answer, two young maiden enter, carrying a tray for each of us. It's good to have new faces around here, one of the girls said after they had both laid their trays on the table. Hi, I'm Tiana. I quickly extend my hands to her, but she chuckles and gives me a hug instead. I'm Nora. I'm from Red Rock. We came here yesterday. That's Sadie, my friend, she says. And Sadie also gives me a big hug before turning to Rose to do same. I've just been here a few minutes, and all I can see is that I'm super impressed. The few people I've met are nice, aside from the ones that brought us here in that truck. But they are obviously not from here. I settle on the bed and start to dig into my meal. Nora grabs a chair while Sadie seats next to me on my bed, then pulls my hair gently behind me. Oh wow, your hair is beautiful. It just needs a little shampoo and straightening, she says. I pause and smile at her. I'm not used to compliments where I'm coming from. I'm not used to anyone talking to me or anyone who wants to be friends with me like Sadie and Nora right now. I'm impressed, and I think I'm going to love it here. You are really pretty, Nora adds. Thank you. You both are pretty too, I add. I bet you are going to have all the attention of the boys around here, even the royals, Nora says, and I roll my eyes at her. I find it really flattering, but I think she's just exaggerating. Have you met any royal, a prince or princess? Rose asks. We only arrived yesterday. We were hoping to serve at the party tonight, but unfortunately we didn't get the chance. Hopefully we get to meet them tomorrow. It's nice to have you girls around, Nora says with a smile. Oh man, I'm overly excited right now. The only person that has ever been nice to me for the last 12 years and a few months now is Layla. Talk of Layla. She would be overly worried about me, and I miss her a lot. I picked up my phone and texted her. The night went by too fast, and now we were ready to meet with the royals. I've been tensed since I woke up this morning, and I think Rose feels that way too. In the short time with her, I have noticed she doesn't really talk much. I took out time to wash my hair, and Sadie helped me straighten it out, leaving a small parting at the side with more than half of the hair falling to the right. When she was done, I marveled at how long and beautiful my hair is. It fell to my waist, and Sadie couldn't stop running her hands through them with an occasional whoa. I would love to dress in my usual jeans and t-shirts, but we were provided with gowns that were befitting to meet the royals. They made it clear that we were to dress with class around here, and we were to be of utmost decorum. We would not be meeting the king today. He is a very busy man, and he just lost his father a week ago, so he is still not in his best mood. I kind of felt relieved after I learned that. Much as I would like to meet the almighty werewolf king, I was pretty skeptical about it. It is a big deal, and with all the stories I've heard about him, he's the strongest being in the werewolf kingdom, and I don't think I can face him. They say he has 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, and the first son is just equally as daring and quick-tempered as his father. I guess the other maidens had started their work in the palace already apart from me, Rose, Sadie, and Nora. Once we were dressed, the same women who welcomed us last night, along with 2 other broad men, escort us to another section of the castle. Once again, I'm left marveling at the high stone walls and beautiful carvings and artwork. The other girls are equally as excited as I am. We reach a gigantic door that is guarded by 2 other hefty men, and this is where I start to feel pretty uncomfortable. My heartbreak has doubled in speed, and my palms have become sweaty. The 2 men open the door for us, and we walk into a very long room. There's a long table with about 8 people seated around it. Royalty, I can feel the power emanating from all of them. The 2 men that brought us here dropped to their knees while the women had their heads bowed. The power in the room caused us to bow our heads too. All the while, my heart is hammering in my chest, and I'm shaky all over. I can feel my wolf at alert again, and she's excited. Petra, introduce us to our guests, a female voice says, and Petra looks up and clears her throat. Your Highness, she begins. These girls were amongst the others that were sent to the palace in tribute to the late king. These 2 here, she motioned to Nora and Sadie, are from Red Rock Pack, while the other 2, she motioned to me and Rose, are from Eclipse Pack. They came in late last night and were unable to join the others, she says, then turned to us. Meet your royals. She starts to introduce all 8 of them to us one after the other. The princess was the one who spoke initially. She is very pretty and not so friendly. She has long blonde hair, and she reeked of elegance. Then she introduced the other nobles at the table, and then finally, the second prince. He seemed friendly to me. As a matter of fact, he got to his feet almost immediately and walked towards us. Me, in particular. He's quite tall and has a domineering presence. My guess would be around 6 feet and 5 inches, broad shoulders, muscular, narrow waist, blue eyes, and very intimidating. He is very cute, I must say, and when he stopped a few inches away from us, he looked directly at me. "What's your name, pretty one?" he asks. His voice is very authoritative. "Tiana," I say in a whisper, but loud enough for him to hear. He reaches out to stroke my cheeks, but then thought better of it and pulled back, then inspects me from head to toe again. "Oh, come off it, Louis," his sister. Princess Elsie scowls from where she is seated, and Prince Louis turns back to glare at her. "I like her," he declares in a loud voice, and another man from the table laughs. "She's a pretty one, but you like everything in skirts, Louis," he says. Petra said his name. "But I can't remember this time. All I remember is that he is the king's relative." I'm a little bit shaken at the prince's open declaration of likeness for me. It's a bit overwhelming, to be honest. I do get male attention back at school, but very rarely and mostly from assholes. The men of Eclipse, on the other hand, want absolutely nothing to do with me, and now I'm being admired by a prince. Oh boy, I think I'm going to fall right now. "Stop playing Louise," Princess Elsie scolds again, then gets to her feet too and walks towards us. She is really tall, as I can see, especially with her long pencil heels. Her nails are neatly done, her hair straightened, and her skin very flawless. She is the most beautiful woman I have seen, no doubt. "You are welcome to the royal palace of the Werewolf King," she smiled for the first time. "My brother should have been here to address you, but he's just..." She let her voice trail off as if she was looking for the right words to describe him, but she couldn't find it. She is apparently referring to the first prince. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to speak to them, so I just keep mute and stare at the floor. Anyway, she continues, "Over the next couple of months, you would be appraised based on your performance here. You would be assigned to various sections of the palace and given specific duties. I know you probably expected to be treated like tributes here, but things have changed a lot around here. If you give us trouble, then we would give you double," she says with a frown. Prince Louis was still scrutinizing me as his sister spoke, and I'm feeling super uncomfortable under his gaze. He's not even hiding it, and it makes me wonder just how many girls would fall for him considering his status and how cute he is. I try not to look in his direction, but focus more on the princess when suddenly everywhere falls silent. The atmosphere around the room quickly changes and a loud growl is heard from the far end of the room where an adjoining door just opened, causing everyone to turn in that direction. I'm dazed for a second as I look up in his direction. I can feel the powerful aura coming from him, and I do not need anyone to tell me this is the first prince, the one who will be the Werewolf King anytime soon. I couldn't feel my heart break anymore, and if I felt pretty uncomfortable before, now, standing at the far end of the room stood the most amazing man I ever set my eyes on. His blonde hair falling to his forehead, almost touching his eyebrow, made him look dangerously intimacy. He's very muscular with his chiseled features, a sharp jawline, and arrogant pose. Unlike his other siblings, his eyes are emerald green, and he has this glint in his eyes that made me shiver visibly. Oh Lord, I can feel all manner of emotions towards him. His scent, even from where he stood, is enough to make me feel giddy. If I were ever asked to describe a god, then he would fit into the perfect description. I can feel my wolf panting in my head now and wagging her tail. Oh yes, she is back. The first prince starts to walk in our direction, and it's almost like I'm going to pass out any time soon from too much excitement. The closer he gets, the more his scent fills my nostrils, making me dream up a lot of ideas in my head. Am I the only one feeling this way? He stops in front of me and glares at his brother, Prince Louis, who raised his hands in submission, and takes many steps backward. Then the prince sniffed me and closed his eyes briefly. I can't hold it in any longer. I'm going to pass out. I can feel my wolf's excitement. Then it hit me. Could it be? He weaves his hands around my waist very possessively, then drags me closer to him, his cute green eyes devouring my body. "Mine," he growls. That was all I heard before everything went bleak and darkness welcomed me. I opened my eyes to a pair of green ones staring down at me, and I forced them close almost immediately, my heartbreak picking up again. I'm not sure where I am or what time it is, and the air surrounding me was almost suffocating. Pull yourself together, I tell myself before seeing my eyes open again, and I met with the same green eyes one more time. This time, he has a smirk on his face. Seeing him up close made it even harder to breathe properly. My cheeks were instantly flaming hot at his close proximity. He's the cutest thing ever, and I could keep staring into those eyes forever and get lost in them. "She is awake," a particular female voice says, and I whip my head to see the princess and Petra on the other side of the room, looking down at me as if they were too scared to come close. I blink severally as the thoughts of what happened come flooding back, and I look away in embarrassment. Just one touch from Prince Ryder and I literally passed out. He didn't need to be introduced to me before I knew his name. Every living werewolf probably knows it. I must look like a fool or a clown right now, but when I think of it, it's so hard to take it all in at once. One minute we were being introduced to the royals and Prince Louis had been flirting with me. The next thing, the whole atmosphere changes and the first prince is standing a few inches from me, his arms around my waist and saying I'm his, and that's the last I remember. I've heard about some people getting a second chance mate, but it's a very rare occurrence, and if it must happen, it takes years for one to find their second chance mate. It's just 3 days since Jordan rejected me, and now I have another mate. And he happens to be the Alpha Prince. He's too damn good to be anybody's second chance. Something is not right. I have a lot of questions, but I'm not sure who to direct it to. I'm scared to my bones right now. Oh Lord, I'm going to get rejected a second time, no doubt. If Jordan rejected me, then why would a prince want me? Princess Elsie moves closer to her brother, who is seated in a chair next to the bed I'm lying on, and looks down at me. Then a smile curves her lips. "Can you sit?" she asks me. I'm still too dazed to speak, so I just nod my head. Her brother is just sending death glares at her without saying a word, but she doesn't seem to mind. What's up with his mood? I wonder if he is always this scary. I sit upright with my back leaning against the bed frame. All the while his gaze followed me, peering into my soul, making me hot all over. Is it just me, or is it unusually tensed in here? I avoid the prince's stare and focus on Princess Elsie. "What happened? Where am I?" I ask her, and the prince gets to his feet, bringing our attention back to him. Boy, he's so tall, maybe 6'7" or more, broad muscular shoulders from a lot of training and fighting. His red lips are calling out to me. Oh, snap out of it already. The way he stares at me as if he can see through my soul. "You passed out," Princess Elsie says, and Prince Ryder scowls at her again. He's one scary man, if you ask me, and his face, once again, takes up a hard and expressionless look. "You are still in the royal palace," and she was still talking when Prince Ryder cuts in. "She's coming with me," he says flatly, and I look at him, then back at his sister with soft eyes that say, "Save me." "She can't go with you. Not until father has seen them at least," Princess Elsie says, and he scowls at her again. What is this? Prince Ryder has got to be the most arrogant man I ever met. He's not even going to let the princess speak. He moves quickly to my side and lifts me up from the bed to his shoulders. I feel electrifying current pass through my body from his touch, and it's exciting. I have never felt my wolf like the way I feel her now, but I don't like that he picked me up like some tribute. "Put me down," I managed to let out, and he froze. But he didn't drop me. I'm staring at the princess upside down from the position I'm in, and she looks amused. I think I may have succeeded in angering the prince with my words, but I couldn't take them back. Ryder, you are scaring her. Stop it, Princess Elsie again. But Prince Ryder doesn't respond. Instead, he carries me out of the room, leaving Princess Elsie and Petra following behind. Petra did not say any words at all in that room. She's an elderly woman, but she appears to be too scared of the prince to even speak in his presence. I start to wiggle my legs in the air and twist my body in an attempt to free myself from his grasp. But it's all a waste of time. He's way too strong and I'm only angering him more with my act. He continues to walk fast, taking me past several doors and stairs that I may not remember again. And then we are out of the royal palace. Princess Elsie has not stopped following us, although Petra has. I hope I did not just get myself into trouble. I shouldn't have objected to the prince. What was I thinking? Why does Moon Goddess keep punishing me? I didn't calculate having a second chance mate, especially not the prince, and now that I have angered him, I'm so going to be in big shit. I'm not sure where he is taking me, but I'm glad that the princess was following behind. She had to run occasionally to catch up with his long strides. We enter another building, the one next to the castle. It's a little walk from the castle, but the prince covered the distance in no time. As we enter the other building, everyone we come across bows their head as he passes. There's not much staff here like there is in the royal palace, but it's equally beautiful and has a high taste and class to it. Prince Ryder keeps climbing the stairs till we get to a large door. Princess Elsie was now lagging behind, but I could still hear her trying to climb the stairs. He opens the door, and I'm welcomed by his sweet scent everywhere. I close my eyes and inhale deeply before finally opening them. He puts me down on the bed with unexpected gentleness before turning to go outside and slamming the door hard behind him, making me flinch. What in heavens? I hear Princess Elsie's voice, but I didn't catch the words that followed. I looked around the environment, his scent filling my nostrils, and it was soothing in a way. The mattress beneath me feels so soft, and the sheets has his scent all over them. He brought me straight to his bedroom. That's right. I can now feel anger beginning to build up within me. The bedroom is very large and spacious, with a walk-in closet and drapes running from the ceiling to ground. I jump to my feet to inspect the rather large room. I can't believe I'm in the bedroom of the future Alpha King. The room is really masculine. A large television is directly opposite the gigantic bed with a fireplace underneath. I've not seen a bedroom so magnificent before, and the fact that his scent was everywhere made it even more enchanting. I can't believe he forced me to his room. A frown crossed my face as I thought of it again. He may be the Alpha Prince, but he's the rudest, most arrogant and proud person I ever met. I wonder what the others are up to right now. I was already getting along with Sadie and Nora before all of this. What am I now? His decree. Oh, Moon Goddess. He's a hot prince, no doubt. Definitely the hottest man on the planet right now. But I don't want to be detained here. I wanted to leave Eclipse because I wanted my freedom. I was tired of the tributary over there. I didn't bargain for this. I want to be with the others and have a life, to have real friends, and not to be detained in here. I thought of Lila too and wonder what she would be up to. I haven't called her since, and she may be worried. I gnash my teeth and make my way to the door, and I was more than relieved to find it open. I'm not going to sit here and wait for him. Consequences be damned. I didn't get too far, or should I say I didn't get anywhere at all. I had barely taken 3 steps out of the room when a bulky man blocks my path. I didn't see him coming, so I bumped into him and let out a yelp, like a thief who had been caught in the act. Looking up at him, I quickly concluded I do not like him. He's so large, with his muscles popping out everywhere, and his hard face looked like that of a trained assassin. I could see a vein twitching in his neck as he held my eyes with a wicked stare. "And where do you think you are going?" he says in a deep voice and cocked a brow at me. But to my surprise, he smiled. "Out of this place." I answer him with a deep frown. My eyes still remain within his. I realize then that I wasn't scared of him one bit. He may be all broad and mean looking, but I didn't feel threatened by him. For someone who had lived most of her life serving others and was told never to speak, except when I was spoken to, I find it surprising that I was not intimidated by his large frame. I had barely taken 3 steps into the hallway when a towering warrior blocked my path. His frame was immense, radiating the disciplined strength of the royal guard. "Where do you think you are going?" he asked, his voice deep, but carrying a calm, professional demeanor. "I need some air," I replied, crossing my arms to hide my nervousness. "What if I remain detained here for the rest of my life with nowhere to run to? What if I never get a chance to go to college, or to have any real friends? I may never see Layla again, or any of the new friends I just made here. What if I never see the sun or the sky again? I like to think that I know how these royals act. They think they own the world and every damn soul in it. They like to have their way and have everyone dance to their tunes. Inasmuch as I am intrigued by the prince, and it's still totally unbelievable that he is my second chance mate, I am scared for what he may do to me. What is worse is that he would not want a future with me. I am almost sure of it. He is the first prince and future werewolf king, and everyone knows how powerful the mate bond is, especially for an alpha wolf. A mate would make his wolf stronger, no doubt, but a man like him would never settle for a nobody like me. Royalty only associates with royalty, while he mingles with females of his class. I would be a toy, and as soon as he is done with me, I would be discarded like spoilt goods. I swallowed the lump in my throat as my mind continued to wander. My life just keeps getting worse. It's been from frying pan to fire over and over again. I want to blame my parents. I didn't ask to come to this wicked world. They brought me to it and then abandoned me to myself. I never knew my mum, even though my dad used to tell me how much like her I am and how she was the best woman in all the world, even though she walked out on us. He never had one bad thing to say about her. And my dad, he left a few days after Jace died. Just like that, knowing fully well that I had nobody else. He just disappeared like that, and I was left to fend for myself since many years ago. Maybe I am really a bad omen, and no one is ever going to want me. I never had luck while growing up. I would do the same things my peers would do, but would get a different result. And it seems to have followed me into adulthood. Rose, Sadie, and Nora were probably exploring the castle already, or may have reported to their duties. But here I was, detained. "Prince Ryder has issued strict orders for your safety," the guard explained firmly, gesturing back toward the elegant suite. "The royal palace is filled with unpredictable powers, especially right now. For your own protection, you must remain within the quarters assigned to you." I realized then that the golden cage of royalty was absolute. I wasn't a guest. I was under the ultimate custody of the future king, tribute by a fate I could neither understand nor escape. "The last one was easier to deal with," the man says with a deep frown, and I squeeze my brows together. "What do you mean?" I ask with narrowed eyes and my arms folded across my chest. "He studied me from head to toe. Believe me when I tell you that you do not want to get on Prince Ryder's nerves," he says. Anger surged through my body, and I didn't realize I had balled my hands into fists besides me till he stared down at them, then shook his head and left, banging the door loud, and remain within it from the outside. I slammed my fists against the door twice before gritting my teeth, and then I turned my back to the door and slowly let my back slide on it till I was seated on the floor. So he had other girls. More anger. I hate this place already. Less than 24 hours since I arrive and everything already annoys me. I want to leave. I want to go back to Eclipse. Yes, I lived a terrible life there, but at least I had my freedom. If the prince has other women, then why the hell did he bring me here? I did not ask for a second chance, mate. And if the moon goddess was going to give me one, did he have to be the arrogant alpha prince? I have heard his name and stories even while I was at Eclipse. Hell, I have heard stories about the royals, and meeting them is a whole different feeling. While many would be excited and would give anything to see a royal, I find out that I am mated to the hot alpha prince, and I am currently in his bedroom, but all I want to do is run. All I can think of is a way to escape. I wish I could talk to Layla, but I don't even have my phone. I didn't tell her Jordan had rejected me, and I feel terrible because she tells me everything. The thought of Jordan made me scowl. He would be happy now and may have moved on already. He waited 2 years to reject me in that manner, and he enjoyed every minute of it. He was happy seeing me in pain. I should not be thinking of him, but I can't help it. He of all people should have known I would not do anything to hurt Jace. He knows how close we were, but he caused me the most pain. At some point, I hoped when I found my mate then, I would finally find happiness. But mostly, I was scared that no one would want me, and my worst fears were confirmed when Jordan rejected me. I still feel the pain of the rejection. It's just been 3 days, and it takes years for one to get over a rejection. But I should feel better considering I have a second chance mate now, right? I am supposed to, but instead, I'm scared to hell. A second rejection is going to vanish me, no doubt, and that's what I am going to get. The thought of it made me cry, and I let the tears roll down my cheeks. I didn't try to stop it or wipe it from my face. I just let it flow. I'm not sure how long I sat there crying when I start to hear the remain within being turned. I jump to my feet, but before I can wipe the tears from my face, the door swings open. I stepped back to allow Princess Elsie in. Behind her is another girl carrying a tray which she sets on the table. Then she courtesies and left, closing the door behind her. "Oh dear, have you been crying?" Princess Elsie asks. I think it's pretty obvious what I've been up to. She didn't need to ask, so I just looked away and avoided her eyes. Princess Elsie looks magnificent, and she's the typical description of the fairy tale princess that I read in books and watched in cartoons as a kid. She is at least 5 foot and 9 inches tall, with long blonde hair that is neatly packed without a strand out of place. Her skin is flawless and without a single blemish. When she spoke, I notice her one-sided dimple on her right cheek. She has a strong aura around her. Her confidence and poise did not come from years of practice. She was born with it, and an angelic talking voice. I wonder how it would sound when she sings. Her nails, too, were very flawless, and you can easily tell she has never had to do any form of work in her life. All of a sudden, I'm wondering what it must feel like to be a princess. When she was introduced to us at first, I thought she was a little unfriendly, but I think I judged too quickly. Standing right now and staring at me with her concerned eyes, I start to feel like someone truly cared for me. I wipe the tears from my cheeks. "Your Highness," I quickly greeted, and she looked at me with amusement, a small smile across her lips, which she tried to hide, but I saw it already. "You can call me Elsie," she said cheerfully. I think I may be dreaming. The princess wants me calling her by her first name, and she's being friendly with me. I nod my head at her, but I don't stare directly into her eyes. I don't want to get too comfortable around her. She is a princess, and I am a nobody. I need to remind myself of my place here. "I brought you food," she says. then points to the chair next to the table, which I reluctantly settle myself in while she walks over to the couch adjacent the table and sits. I'm not hungry, I do not have an appetite, but it would be rude for me to reject her act of kindness. Thank you, I say dryly and open the tray to eat. I can feel her watching me closely and it made me very self-conscious, but I pretend not to notice her stare. Tell me, how was your life at Eclipse Pack? Who are your parents? And why were you given out? She spoke after a while. I close my eyes briefly, contemplating if I should tell her the truth, or lie, or just avoid the question totally. I shrug. Pretty normal. I lived like any other normal person. And I don't know my parents, I said dismissively, hoping she would drop the topic, but she didn't. I know you are not just an Omega. I can feel your strength. And I feel your wolf. Definitely not an alpha breed, though. Maybe beta or gamma, she presses. She feels my wolf. The royals are very strong, and their powers are way beyond any other werewolf. I am not surprised that she would be able to guess my status, but I don't think it would be wise to go into details about my origin. It doesn't matter, I say flatly. She doesn't say anything again, and I start to feel bad. I'm sorry, Princess Elsie. I didn't mean to sound rude. I just don't feel comfortable talking about Eclipse Pack yet. I immediately apologized. She nodded her head. It's fine. I don't expect you to, but with time you will come around, I hope, she says. Once again, I'm surprised at how friendly she is to me and the fact that she is trying to make conversation with me. It's been a while anyone looked at me and saw an actual person, so it's a bit overwhelming that a princess would be this nice to me. Can I ask you something? I drop my fork and turn fully to her. She sits up and nods her head. Ask me anything. Why am I been held here? Am I a decree? I want to be with my friends, but the scary guy, I point to the door, would not let me out. Princess Elsie is probably my age mate, so I think I can relate with her. She stammers and then sighs. Ryder is just, again. She searched for the words to describe her brother, but she couldn't get the right ones to use. All I can say is he's been through a lot, and he is a great guy. She chuckles briefly, but he can be very annoying sometimes and overly stubborn. Just like Dad, she says, and her voice trails off again. I'm looking closely at her now. I didn't expect her to be so open to me, but I'm grateful for her company. I mean, he is the first prince and would be crowned king of the werewolves soon, so that is expected. He's used to getting what he wants, but overall, I think you both need to talk first. It's not like you are his decree, but knowing Ryder, he may have you under watch for as long as possible. She makes gestures with her hands. He's a great guy. He's just too uptight. But don't get on his nerves if you must see his good sides, or if you want to ever get out of this room, she says. That's not exactly the answer I wanted, but I just nod my head and go back to picking on my food. Don't get on his nerves. Don't get on his nerves. Same thing the scary man told me. I am not allowed to get on his nerves, but he has been getting on my own nerves by keeping me remain within here. Well, if there is anything you need in the meantime, you can let me know, so I get it for you, she offered. I didn't think twice. I need my phone, please. Can I have it? My friend Layla, she would be worried sick about me. I just need to place a call to her. I quickly explain. She looks away, and I think she is going to deny my request. She seems to be considering the idea, and after what felt like forever, she says, I don't think Ryder would want you speaking to anyone yet. But I can get it for you, just don't let him find out, she says. Another round of anger. I can't speak to anyone. Princess Elsie stands to her full height. Ryder can be really busy, especially with the current case he is working on. So I get that he would not be spending much time in here. I would take the risk to get you your cell phone, but he mustn't find out, she says, and I nod my head again, trying to hide the anger in me. By the way, the others have started their respective duties, and in case you are worried about them, you should know they are doing just fine. It's a good thing you girls came at this time. During the days of my grandfather, she paused. Her grandfather had just passed on and a ceremony was just conducted for him yesterday, and I know she is still hurting. Things were much harder, she continued. He was a good man, but he had his flaws. Anyway, my dad and Ryder are making a few changes around here. It's why the servants are treated better and have a section within the royal castle. It wasn't always like that, she explains. Princess Elsie has absolutely no reason to divulge so much information to me, but she did, and I like her for that. She spoke to me like we were of the same class. She didn't see a maid or someone of a lower class. She wasn't a spoilt brat, like we assumed all princesses to be. Her nose did not scrunch up when she spoke to me, and I feel myself relaxing around her. She pursed her lips. Anyway, there would be many days for us to talk and become friends, she says with a warm smile, and I couldn't help but smile up at her too. A princess wants to be friends with me. Unbelievable. I would like that, I say, and she nods her head before leaving. I want to scream and cry at the same time, but I did neither. Layla was the only one who was nice to me in Eclipse Pack, and in just a few hours I think I may have a couple of friends already. Sadie, Nora, Rose, and now a princess. It's been a year and 6 months already, and we still do not have a clue who is behind the attacks. They seem to have a similar pattern, combing through different packs and attacking their alphas and lunas. In the past 18 months, at least 13 pack lunas have mysteriously died. Or their alphas just go missing. Justice or nothing. At first, my dad tried to solve the riddle, but he has a lot on his hands, and with everything that was happening around me at the time, I decided to soak myself in more work and take the case off his hands. I needed the distraction, and I have been so engrossed in uncovering this mystery for the last 18 months, and each time I feel I was close to uncovering the case, I find myself at a dead end again. Another pack just sent a message that their alpha mysteriously died, and there was the note again. I have not visited any of these packs personally because, as the future Alpha King, my safety was very paramount, and for any time I stepped out, it was always with an entourage or 2 bodyguards at least. It gets tiring most times, especially when I want to have alone time, but I have long given up on that. My delicate brother Louis is seated in front of me in my office, and besides him is Adrian, my cousin, and also one of the future betas that would serve during my reign. There are usually 3 royal betas, seeing the large amount of workload that we have to handle at the royal castle, and Adrian happens to be one of them. Most times, he is the one that goes over to the packs as a representative during these investigations and brings back the report to me. He has also been a close friend and ally since I was a child. His brows are furrowed together as he looks over the note that was discovered at the scene that was sent to us. It appears as if the shadows wanted to wipe off all alphas or just cause pain for something that may have happened to him or her and was taking justice into their hands. I have another meeting in about 10 minutes, and I'm already feeling exhausted from this particular case. 18 months, and every time we think they have stopped, another body wounds up dead. These are apparently not rogue attacks, but deliberate attempts to make a point, and whosoever was behind this has some kind of backing somewhere. Because how is it that they did a clean job every time, and no one can trace it back to them? The alphas are the strongest in their packs, and are not easily defeated. Whoever was involved in these vanishings had to be an alpha themselves or someone of a higher authority. There weren't any wolf bites. If not, it would have been easier. And when these bodies are found, there is never a scent to trace back to the vanisher. Louis place a call through to the Luna of that pack, and Adrian. I think it's about time I visit these scenes myself, I tell them. Louis nods his head. I will place a call right away, but we both know there is no way you would visit those packs yourself, he says. Adrian quickly concurs. There's a lot to be handled around here, and you know it. If you insist on someone else joining the case, then Louis could tag along, or Princess Elsie. She has wanted to assist for as long as I can remember, Adrain adds. I scowl at him at the mention of my sister's name, and he quickly looks down. I don't want to drag Elsie into this. If she wants to help, then she can do so from here. Adrian should know better than suggest that. You know Elsie would want to help out. She is good at tracing scents, and I didn't let Louis finish. I scowled at him too, my eyes turning dark instantly. The last time she had been on a mission with Louis, she almost died, and that was about 4 months ago. The thought still scares me till date, and Louis kind of blames himself, so it's surprising he would even mention her name now. She is a woman, a princess for that matter, and not some warrior. She can use her gifts on other things, and not on the damned battleground. I'd be damned before I allowed her into any of these cases again. Okay. Louis raised his hands in submission. I shouldn't have mentioned her name at all, my bad, he admits. I think I would look closely into this one with Adrian, he admits, and I nod my head. Better, I say dryly. Then I start to get to my feet. The meeting was to hold in the boardroom, and I was a minute late already. My dad would be at the meeting, and we have not exactly been on good terms for a while because he's trying to get me married by all means, even though I'm not attracted to his idea of a wife. I gave up all hope since Adeline, and 18 months later, I find out I have a second chance mate. I feel my heart flutter at the thought of her, Tiana. I have never met anyone so beautiful and intriguing. She was a natural, a beauty without even trying, and I felt my heart squeeze when I remember the way Louis was staring at her. He is my brother, and he probably did not know she was my mate. Hell, I did not think I was going to have a second chance mate. I had been with some of the nobles discussing some crucial matters when my wolf starts to act up. I knew something was wrong then, and the more I tried to block him out and pay attention to the issue on ground, the worse he became. You see, as an alpha prince, my wolf senses are the most active and definitely the most powerful. I can feel a danger coming and smell a rogue or possible harm from miles away. This is why I needed to take this case by myself, but too many issues coupled with my status would not allow me. I can take down hundreds of rogues by myself. I also have the power to control some aspects of nature, but these are just a few of my many gifts that have helped us in the past. But as the future king, there were certain places I could not visit until I become king, and I would do well to change all of that soon. If I had handled this case, I would have gotten the culprit by now, but all these superstitious beliefs would not allow me to. Anyway, I thought something was wrong, and earlier on, I was told we received gifts from the Western Pax as a form of tribute to my late grandfather. These things are common occurrences, and I was in no mood to meet with any of them, because I woke up feeling grumpy, so I told the others to go on with them, and Louis to take over. I would send a message to the Pax later on when the meeting was over. What I didn't expect was one of those girls would be my mate. I decided to check on how things were going on there because my instincts just kept on leading me there. The closer I got, the more excited my wolf became, and when I finally saw her, it made complete sense. Just the fact that my brother was next to her was enough to get me angry, and I wanted to make a statement to everyone in that room that she belonged to me, which I did without thinking twice, and when she passed out, I thought I'd done something wrong. I panicked instantly. She felt so fragile and petite in my arms, and as I carried her and stared down at her beautiful face, I knew I needed her more than I ever needed anything. Focus, Ryder, focus. I tell myself as I made my way out of my office and into the boardroom. My dad was already seated with other members, and he had a snarl on his lips. But I totally ignored him and settled into my seat, and my eyes did not meet his until I was comfortably seated. I like to challenge him many times. He may be the king, but he is always in everybody's business, and he thinks he can control all our lives. He could try with Louis, but he knows better than to force his ideas on me. After a few seconds of staring at each other, I finally avert my eyes. He is still the king, and I should not challenge him in public. I didn't miss the smile on his lips before he cleared his throat and started to speak. Boredom. Many hours have passed since Princess Elsie left, and I didn't get my cell phone. I know Mr. Scary is still behind the door, and coming out again is not going to be an option. I'll find myself back in here. I grit my teeth in frustration. I don't think I like this prince much. It's plain wickedness for him to leave me here for hours without any form of company whatsoever. How does his brain work anyway? I find myself continually sighing and cursing. I wonder just how long he plans on keeping me in here. The arrogant son of a bitch. Prince or not, I'm going to give him a dose of his own medicine somehow. Maybe I would remain within him in this room and run away with the keys. Then he would know what it feels like. Even I know the whole plan sounds ridiculous, but the thought was kind of soothing. I have been here for hours, damn it, and it feels like I would run mad if I'm not let out or if there is no human company to interact with. I wish Princess Elsie had stayed longer. She is a nice lady and she says she wants us to be friends. Why then did she not get me the motherfucking phone? Is she so scared of her brother? I bet she is. Everyone is scared of him. I sigh again and sit back on the soft mattress. I want to take a shower and just sleep, but I don't have anything to change into, and I can't possibly sleep in the prince's room. I laid back on the bed and inhaled his scent again. I must have dozed off briefly because movements within the room jerked me awake. I sit upright as my heartbreak picked up when I realized he was in the room with me. I stood to my feet a little too fast, making me sway as I did. So much for my plans to remain within him, in and run with the keys. He is one intimidating man, and he stood backing the light, making it hard to see the expression on his face. There she is again, my wolf that only comes visiting when he's near, wagging her tail and drooling over our mate. Am I even allowed to refer to him as that? It's too good to be true. He's not going to want me. All the doubts come flooding back, but I can't help all the different feelings inside me at the same time. He was studying me closely as if he could read my thoughts. What happened to all my anger? All I feel now is this crazy pull towards the demigod in front of me. He takes 2 steps closer and stops, scrutinizing me with eyes that could see right through my soul. I've never felt anything like it, not even when I learned Jordan was my mate. He dropped his hands almost immediately, but the spot where his fingers touched still tingled. Mate, what the hell is wrong with me? I need to pull it together. Plus, that bodyguard of his already made it known he had other women in his life. A prince like him is not good for my mental health. Exactly 15 minutes later, there's a knock on the door, and I'm scared at first, but then I figured Prince Ryder would not knock before entering his room. I open the door and find a young girl carrying a tray and a smile on her face. I already had a lot to eat earlier on and I am nowhere close to hungry, but I accept the tray anyway and thank her. She doesn't say a word, she just bends in courtesy and leaves. Weird, no one ever did that to me. I had taken about 3 spoons when the door burst open, and in comes Prince Ryder. I act like I didn't hear him come in, even though my hands are shaky as I take another spoon and my heartbreak had tripled, and it feels like I am weak in the knees. It's a good thing I am seated right now. I would have made a fool out of myself again. He doesn't say anything either. I hear the water come on and I know he is taking his bath. I have now lost my appetite altogether, so I just covered the food back and left it there while I stared down at my nails. How long did he plan on keeping me here? I hope not long, because I was dying for human company, and I'm not doing well with being too close to him. I may lose my mind if I remain here for long. When he got out of the shower, I couldn't tear my eyes away from him and my mouth would not close either. My cheeks instantly flame up, betraying my innermost thoughts. But I wished I could freeze the hands of time and just sit here admiring his body. It still feels surreal to me that I am mated to the future werewolf king, and I am seated right in his room, and he is standing in front of me half naked, the almighty Prince Ryder. It's like I am in a dream that wake up from. He clears his throat, and I bring my head up to meet his face. He had a cocky smile on, like he can read through my thoughts, and I swallow again at how handsome he is. "Are you going to keep staring at me, or are you going to bed yet?" he asked, his hands on his waist. What? My voice sounded like a whisper even to me, and his smile widened, making my breath catch in my throat again. I didn't think he was capable of smiling so broadly. I must look really stupid to make him smile so much. He shook his head, then walked over to the bedside phone and dialed a number. I quickly avert my eyes when he turned back to look at me, but I think he may have caught me. Again, my cheeks flame red, but he doesn't say a word. He walks over to the closet, and then there's a knock on the door. I frown my face because it felt like we have been interrupted, so I don't bother to check who it is. He comes out with a robe over his body, much to my relief, and opens the door for the same girl to clear the tray. I thank her and she bows in curtsy to both of us before leaving. Well, I could get used to this, you know. Prince Ryder walked over to the grand canopy bed, his posture weary from the heavy burdens of the kingdom. "The night is late, Tiana, rest," he said dryly, his emerald eyes reflecting a complex mix of exhaustion and intense possessiveness. He looked at me amused. "This is my room," he says flatly, like I didn't know that already. My heart is hammering in my chest and it feels like it would explode any moment. But he just laid there on the bed, his 2 hands behind his head on the pillow, like it was very normal to him. Since he had me remain within here, I had a feeling he was going to leave me here for the night. I didn't expect or anticipate laying in the same bed with him for the night. "So where do I sleep?" I ask him, a little hysterically. "Don't make this difficult," he drawls. "I am tired and I want to sleep. I don't have time for your childishness." Embarrassment. But I didn't let it show. Instead, I say with authority, and he scowls one more time, causing goose pimples to appear on my skin. "Thank Moon Goddess. The lights are out already. He wouldn't get to see them. You are my mate," he growls very possessively, but I don't show any sign that I was shaking internally. Instead, I held my ground and glared at him, and I can feel him getting angrier. The whole room is charged with so much tension, and I know I am treading on dangerous grounds, but I can't stop. He closed the distance between us, his powerful presence enveloping the room, dropping the temperature instantly. "You are my fated mate." he growled low, the ancient bond flaring between us like an invisible flame. The sheer intensity of his declaration made my breath catch. He didn't force me closer. Instead, he maintained a respectful but unyielding distance, reminding me that while my spirit wanted to run, our souls were already irrevocably entwined. I feel water begin to gather in my eyes, and I don't think I can hold it in any longer. It's all too much for me. He is too much for me, and I fear what may become of me if I remain under his control for the rest of my life. Many people would consider themselves lucky if they find out they are mated to the Alpha Prince, but I feel like I'm being punished. After much trying and failing to keep my tears in check, they finally fall free on my cheeks. The room is dark, with just the bedside light as the only source of illumination. But he sees I'm crying, and before I know it, he is by my side, all the tension in the air gone, as he lowers his alpha aura and then holds me close to his chest and starts patting the back of my head. I didn't expect him to be so gentle with me. I did not think my tears would touch him so much. But they did, and when he held me close and patted me like that, I felt better immediately, and I shivered as the electric currents and sparks from his touch passed through every corner of my body. "Don't cry," he says softly, and I start to push him away from me, but it feels like I'm pushing against a rock. He doesn't release me so easily at first, but after a while he finally lets go. "Can I go, please? I just want to be with my friends," I start to say, but his eyes darken again, and I begin to feel his anger. "Go to bed now," he says, pointing at the bed. With the look on his face, I know there is no getting out of this for me. I could cry all night or protest, but he isn't going to let me out of this room. I sighed and resolved myself to my fate. Then, slowly, I climb on the bed and get beneath the covers. When he was satisfied that I would not make any more demands about leaving his room, he walked over to his side of the bed and laid down. He was reasonable enough to leave a considerable distance between us, and I was grateful for it. But one thing is certain, I'm not getting any sleep this night. Prince Ryder surprised me. He didn't make any attempt to touch me or even come close. He maintained his distance and slept at the edge of the bed while I slept on the other end. If I didn't know better, I would have said he was scared to come close, and then suddenly I am the one thinking I wasn't attractive enough for him. While I tossed and turned, trying to get a comfortable position that would maybe make me fall asleep, he remained in the exact spot he laid without moving an inch, almost like he didn't know I was laying right next to him. I guess I am the only one affected by his presence here. His sweet scent surrounding me, and the fact that he was on the same bed with me were not helping matters. Maybe I wasn't good enough for him. I bet I don't even come anywhere close to the females in his life, the ones his bodyguard told me about. I start to feel sad, and then I start questioning myself. This is what I wanted, right? I thought I was scared about him touching me if we laid on the same bed, but it seems like I was more scared about how I would feel laying close to him. I have never been aware or self-conscious of my body like I was now, and the fact that he didn't make any attempt was scary. If he didn't want me, then why did he bring me here? Why didn't he reject me? Does he not find me attractive in the least? What did I do wrong? Get yourself together, Tiana. You are apparently not in his class. Sleeping next to the Alpha Prince has got to be your biggest achievement. My inferiority complex was coming to play with my feelings now, and I turned again. This time I slept on my back with my face to the ceiling. I had thought he was asleep already, and my body stiffened at the sound of his voice. I don't want to answer at first. He has been overly rude and aggressive to me, and maybe I needed to return the favor. "You look delicate," he says with a tone that suggested he was bored. Now I'm not sure if that was a compliment or an insult. I don't know what to make of this arrogant man beside me. I know I have lost a lot of weight from all my excessive work at Eclipse Pack, and that made my face kind of look smaller. He turned for the first time since he laid on the bed, and I wish he hadn't, because now he was facing my direction. Good thing I had my eyes to the ceiling. "I don't bite tea, relax," he says after a while. "There is only one other person that called me that, and that is Layla." But when he said it, it felt like I just heard it for the first time, and I liked the way it rolled off his tongue. It made me want to smile. But I know better. He heaved a heavy breath, and the next thing I know, he is asleep. It's easy to tell by the sound of his breath. Just like that, I didn't dare to look in his direction until I was sure he was fully asleep. And when I turned to face him, I missed my breath for a second. The light was dim. I didn't like to sleep in total darkness anyway, and I was glad he liked a little illumination at night too. Aside from the worry lines that were etched on his brows as he slept, he looked like a baby. Gone was the arrogant and domineering alpha prince I had seen a few minutes ago. He looked so calm and gentle in his sleep, and one could easily tell he was tired. I wondered what it must be like to be an alpha prince. How many issues passed his table every day. I also wonder what his father looked like. I hear Prince Ryder looks a lot like him. If he was this scary and commanding, how would the Alpha King be? I imagine the others would have met him already. Now that Prince Ryder's grandfather had passed on, it wouldn't be long before he takes the throne of his father. Was I additional stress to him? That's why he called me childish. The memory made me frown again. No one ever called me childish, and the thought was infuriating. He slept so peacefully while I watched him, hoping that sleep would come, but it didn't. So I just let my mind drift again. What if I tried to sneak out now? I don't know if he is a deep sleeper or not, and if he catches me trying to sneak out, then I would be in deep shit. I just needed to make a phone call to Layla so bad because I know she would be worried sick. I also needed to tell her I have a new mate. I didn't tell her about Jordan before because she was going to freak out, but right now she seemed like the only person I wanted to talk to that would understand me, and maybe say some words to make me feel better. I remember the princess's warnings not to anger the prince, but I can't help it. I need some time out of this room. I start to slip out of the covers as gently as I could, and the moment one of my legs touched the ground, Prince Ryder adjusted in his sleeping position. I stayed still and waited to hear his hard breaths before placing my second leg on the ground and rising to my feet. But I hear him groan, and his eyes flung open instantly. "Where are you going?" he asks angrily. You would not think he is the same one that had just been sleeping like a baby a few minutes ago. To the restroom, I quickly lied. Even I was marveled at how fast my reply came. Not like I had it planned before. He groaned and watched me walk all the way to the bathroom, his eyes not leaving me till I was safely inside the toilet. I cursed and had to force myself to pee, knowing fully well he would also be listening to hear my every movements. I flushed loudly once I was done, as if to convince him that I had just taken a pee. Just like I thought when I got out of the restroom, his eyes were still open, waiting for me. I sigh and crawl back into bed, raising the covers above my head. I guess there is no escaping for me. I don't know how to feel, honestly. A few seconds later, and he is asleep again while I was still struggling to find sleep. The night dragged for too long, and I didn't get any sleep until the early hours of the morning.